Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. We are kicking off the Tinker Day with this S70. It's got a couple of minor issues. One, the ambient temp sensor is busted. I'm going to install that. Number two, this thing is not returning to the neutral position turn signal stock. So I'm going to replace the turn signal stock. I already replaced the clock spring, and that makes it trip maybe 1 out of 20 times. Number three, somebody put 850 door trim on this, but they didn't screw a hole in the door and put the screw there, so they got glue holding it, double-sided molding tape, whatever. I'm gonna put a screw in there. And there's one other thing I'm trying to remember, it needs to be done. Maybe I got the part in the trunk. Let me take a look, see if I got something in the trunk here that I need to deal with. Man, we fixed all them locks, and he's got some nice dark tint on this car. This thing really helps. Oh, the seatbelt. Yeah, the seatbelt in this car is kind of busted up. It works fine, but the handle where you pull it is broken there, and whoever installed this one, it's twisted. So you got to take the side of the seat off, it really stinks. But get in there and replace this seatbelt so that's more comfortable to use. So I'm going to start with this turn signal, then the seatbelt, then the ambient temp sensor, then this door molding trim. Now this vehicle likely came with a power seat. These are not the seats that came in there. These came out of a HOWR 70 that was SE model, probably, with this pattern. I don't know how it's got a wear mark in there with a bunch of cushion missing, but it is what it is. So it's a manual seat instead of electric, so I'm going to pull it all the way forward and see if I can reach this bolt in this seat. If I could take it loose and replace it without taking the side thing off, I will, because those are a pain in the butt. Let me slide the seat forward, lift it up in the back, and check it. Got the seat all the way forward, the back side of it all the way up. Let's see if we can see that bolt down there. Yes, we can. So I'm going to try to hit that with a tool and replace that without pulling the seat side piece out, because that thing has some weird screws in it. Makes it difficult with these handles. Not to say that somebody put those in right, but they may be. So it may be in right. Let me try to reach in there like I was saying. Now, one thing you got to remember, to replace this up here in this B pillar, you have to disconnect the battery, because if you unplug it, you'll set off the SRS light. These seats have accident reels in there that reel the seat belt in case of an accident. And if you unplug this seatbelt assembly in here without disconnecting the battery, you'll set off your SRS light. So let me go disconnect the battery, which of course will reset the radio. You pull the top of this piece of trim piece out, unhook it, then you twist the red thing, get it out, pull it out of the way. Then you pull these two metal tabs in and you pry the top of this B pillar off the wall. This holds it on the wall, so you got to make sure you pry these two metal tabs in. Once you get the top start coming loose, you work your way down, pop the bottom loose. Do not try to pull the whole thing out by the top or you'll just break it. Lift it out of the lower trim, and now you can unplug this cylinder right here. That's the activation thing. And you got a T30 there, 14 millimeter there, 14 millimeters up there. So you undo those 14 millimeter there and a 14 millimeter up there, then this thing will come out. Then you can work this trim out so you don't break it. Push the bottom two in, slide it in, then you can feed the belt through it. The belt will come through the slit on the top. This top bolt had a bracket on the outside of it hooked on there like that. Then it had this thing that hooked on the inside. Bolted that in, probably torque it down to about 25 newton meters, 18 foot-pounds. It's got thread lock on it. I don't know if you need to tighten it much more than that, but tighten those two bolts. Plug that in, snug this bolt here. You probably need to have this in place before you can get the seat belt to give you slack. Those things are designed to only give you slack when they're in at the proper angle. So if the car is tilted some kind of way, the seat belt's supposed to hold the person in place. So now that I got that in, I thread this through here, put this trim back in here, then I'm gonna drop it down through that trim there and bolt that in right there. That's a T50. I tighten that pretty tight, probably 25 foot-pounds. The seat belt handle there is supposed to rest on that pin there. I don't know how people get those things broken. Maybe the plastic just gets old over time and people jerk them and bust them through there. But this one is not busted, so I got it. Let me put this trim here, hook this thing back in place. As you can see, it has press pins all down it. Press pin there, and this clips through that metal thing up here. Those go through there, but you want to put this piece here in first, this little red piece, because that holds the top trim in place. So you take that, you weave it through there, twist it like that. That holds this trim piece there. This B pillar has a tab that goes behind that trim there, tab that goes behind that trim there. So that sits on there like that, hold it in place. Then you get it all lined up here. Then you press it in place so that those push pins grab hold into the wall there. And then those snap in place. Now you can put this piece up here and pull the seatbelt out as far as you can. Then you put that trim on there, then you let it reel back up so that that trim holds this belt in a good position for you. Then you push it down through there. If you got a power seat, that trim comes off real easy. If not, like I said, it's a little easier to do it with the trim still on. In grand Volvo fashion, you could probably expect this trim piece to break and that one too. But just do your best, be careful, try not to let it break. Make sure you get these pieces snapped in all the way so that your trim is in all the way up. Now I'm going to take this clamshell loose from this steering wheel and take this switch off and replace it with the one I got from the salvage yard and see if that fixes my return problem. First thing you do is release the steering wheel lock right there. Make sure you don't bust that. You got a screw there, a screw there, a screw there. Those are T25s. Remove those. Then you unlatch the top of this with a screwdriver, a bone tool, or something like that. What I normally do is put something in there like this and pry it until it starts coming up like that. You don't want to break these latches here on both sides and the guide down there. Then that lifts up. Then you take those screws out of the bottom, work that bottom off from around the ignition switch area over on that side, and then you drop this bottom piece down. But take those 3 screws out the bottom first. With the lower and top piece loose and your tilt wheel thing released, you can actually push the steering wheel in and out. The steering wheel goes in and out and up and down. So I normally pull the steering wheel out, give me a little bit more room. Now I can unplug the plugs to this switch. There's 2 of them. and I take the screw out of the bottom right there. That one actually already looks loose. And I take this one out the top there, and I pull this out and away from the car. So this plug here, they're normally tighter. You can grab them with one hand on the white part, grab the switch, unplug it. This one in here, it has a release tab on it. You squeeze that tab there and unplug it. Sometimes I just take these and just jerk them loose like that, but it's probably not the best thing to do. Let me grab the other one and put it on. Now see, when this thing is triggered, the turn signal thing, I got the left turn signal on. You see that thing pops out, and your clock spring, this little black piece of the clock spring, is supposed to push on that and trigger it to return the handle. And sometimes it doesn't do it because it's not hard enough, or this is stiff. So let me grab the other one, screw it on there, and see if that clock spring will release it. As you can see, the replacement looks a lot better than the one that was on there. You could actually read the writing for the cruise control and the flashers and stuff like that. That one's probably got a lot of miles on it. I screwed both screws in, top and bottom. It seems to function okay. I'm gonna put the key in there, unlock the ignition. You only have to turn it to the first stop to unlock the ignition. Now the steering wheel should be unlocked. You only have to turn to the first spot to unlock the steering wheel. I'm gonna lock the steering wheel handle so that it doesn't move around. Push it up. Any direction I turn this, it should pop that loose. It clicked it and it returned it. Let's go down. Of course, your steering wheel turns easier. Oh, it returned that too. So this one's probably a little too stiff to pop it loose. It seems to be working fine. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the steering wheel back out, pull the key out, put that bottom trim piece in, and align and carefully snap this top piece in, making sure I don't break these tabs here. You got those tabs on both sides. That way it locks down tight and looks good. Now, if for some reason you're replacing this on the 850, the 850 has two screws that go up to the bottom and screw into this piece here. And you got to have a long, at least 4-inch reach on a T15 screwdriver to reach up through that bottom piece and get those two screws out of the top piece. So it's 2 screws in the top piece, 2 screws in the bottom piece that holds this clamshell around the steering column. Next thing we're going to do is drill a hole in this door to hit where the screw's supposed to be in there on that trim. It looked like he put some kind of, oh man, he actually got rid of the receiver for that screw and put some kind of clip in there, and the clip is not holding tight enough. So I don't know if we're going to be able to put the screw in there like I planned because the trim's messed up. Alright, let me see if I can find some double-sided tape and put some fresh double-sided tape on it, because this double-sided tape is not sticky. I got some somewhere. Let me work on that. What I have here is a VST, Volvo System Tester. That's the part number there. This is an old tool that was designed by Volvo to check OBD1 and OBD2 ports in Volvos, starting as far back, I think it's 89. Wherever Volvo put in the boxes to read codes with the OBD1 port, this thing actually had an adapter that will plug into that port where you push your button and blink off your codes. It also has an adapter to hook up to your OBD2 port, even if it's an OBD1 car. 94, Volvo started putting the OBD ports inside the car under the coin holder in the Volvo 850s. And you could read the codes with this. This system tester is specifically designed to get level 2 and level 3 codes out of the car. Not just generic codes that they use for emissions testing, but to dig deep inside the climate control units and the ABS systems and all that stuff to read, program, reset code, stuff like that. So I use these a lot of times to scan codes in the climate control system, the ABS system, to reset service lights, stuff like that. So this is what you have. Most of these units are damaged. Very few of them work 100%. If you find one that's 100%, it may cost you as much as $3,000 to get and purchase one of these. I recommend people buy them as group buys for Volvo clubs or area clubs. So if you got a Volvo club in Virginia, you guys should try to get a hold of one of these and purchase it as a group, or somebody can purchase it and just charge, you know, 20 or 50 bucks or something like that to scan codes and reset things and reprogram things for people so that it could pay the unit off. Now, I bought mine. Somebody was kind enough to connect me with a Volvo mechanic that had resigned, and he had several Volvo tools. This was one of them. I purchased it from them, and it does have a damaged button, but I've been able to work around it. You can actually program the key fobs for the 98 S70 with this tool if you have the pin code from Volvo to do it. You could reset and reprogram how often your oil light comes on, the one that tells you need to service the car, oil change reminder. You can reset the time lapse on that with these, and you know, figure out what's going on with your ABS. I use it several times in my video. You guys see me digging deep with this thing, so I'm getting ready to use it on this S70 right now to reset the service light on it. It's telling us it's time to change the oil, so I'm gonna reset that on there. And I think that's all I need to do with this car for now. This is the ambient temp sensor. I think Gilbert said he broke the one that was on here. Trying to put this grill in. There's a connector for it. Make sure the wires are all the way pushed in. And just plug that thing in there. And that sensor plugs in right there. Push your wires all the way in. Especially when they're old like this, you can actually force them up to the end of the plug like that. Plug that thing in and then snap that sensor in that grill position right there. And there it is, plugged in with the wires pushed in as far as I could in the back. Now I'm ready to take that thing and plug it in here. Oops. Grill pushed out. That's how it got broken in the first place. Snap the grill back in. Now go inside the car and test it, make sure it works. It should read the ambient temperature in the instrument cluster. Turn your info knob here to temp, and there it is, reading 88 degrees. So that's good to go. Now this cluster has the bulb in here out and a bulb over here out. So that's one thing we got to do. Now I can start it, make sure my service light stayed out. And it did. No service light. Then I gotta find my radio code. And 3155 is what it reads up there. Turn my radio on. 3155. And I should be good to go. I am good to go. So let me go ahead and get this car out of the way. I think the next thing we need to do with this vehicle is the rear main seal, because that thing is leaking. Decent leak on it. Look down under the car and you see the oil leak coming right out there between the transmission and the engine. That's the transmission. Mounts up to the engine. Transmission, and you get oil on that bolt there, and if you could look up in that hole, you'll see some wetness inside that little hole. But classic rear main seal leak, and it's dripping on people's driveways, stuff like that, when it sits for a little while. So we're gonna have to replace that thing. two ways you could do it. You could drop the subframe and drop the transmission, do it that way, or you can pull the engine out the top and separate the engine and transmission there, do it that way. So I think we're going to get a cherry picker and pull it out the top, do it that way. Next up, lemonade. The battery was dead last time I checked this car out. So I took the battery to the auto parts store when I got back in town. I had them charge the battery up. Now I'm ready to install that battery in this vehicle. However, I don't see the battery. So maybe I set it in the hood. Let's do that. Then we'll check tire pressure, fire this thing up. And I need to check the contents of it. I'm looking for the rear main seal. I believe I have one that I could put in this F70. If not, we're going to have to order a rear main seal. Oh, that don't look like a battery there. Now, when I left here a few weeks ago, I thought I left the battery there. So let me contact my buddy, see where that battery may have been moved to. Ah, here's the battery. Ooh, I don't think this battery's too old. I purchased it a couple months ago, I think. Let's see if it's got a 0421. It's not a new purchase for me, but it's not old. I bought this car in 22, so I'm gonna put my tester on it, test it, and then I'm going to install it. There's my battery tester. I wiggled them on the connectors, and it says I got 12.4 volts. Hit OK. Cold cranking amp is 650. I'm gonna say it's after charge. Crank that up to 650. Testing. Since you tested out of the car, it won't ask you to check the car. State of health, 85%. State of charge, 40%. So it's a good battery, but it's low on charge. 12.24 volts, 525 cranking amps. It says it's good. It should be recharged. And I've had it sitting out of the car for about a month after getting it back from the parts store. So let's drop it in and see if it starts the car. When I left here back in July, the car was parked late June for two reasons. One, the AC wasn't blowing real cold. So there's a guy in Walnut Creek, or close to Walnut Creek, close to the Bay Area. He charged this thing up for me real good, and it worked great. April, May, most of June. The end of June, it started not cooling as much, cycling off and on, may have a leak somewhere. So that was the main reason why we parked it. Another reason why I was parked, because the tags expired. My Temp tag that I got before I left Cincinnati has long expired because of my extended trip. I'm driving it with a risk of getting a ticket for having expired tags. So let me go ahead and see if this thing will fire up. When I put the key in the door, it unlocked all the doors. That's good. I guess I should check the oil. Make sure oil hadn't leaked out of it while it was parked for July, August, September, half of October, 3.5 months. And it looks like it's overfilled a little bit, but it's probably drained down into the engine from sitting so long. So it looks like it's got about a half quart too much oil. Let's reach in here and stick the key in the ignition and see if she fires up. This car's had an ignition replaced, so it's got two keys. These keys are different on the tip. They got a service key, and then they have a normal key. A service key looks like this. It won't unlock the glove box. It won't even go in the hole. The ignition key looks like that. The tip of it's different. it will go in, but you see the ignition key has a wider groove. Let me cut that. There it is, you can see it now. The ignition key has a wider groove than the service key. So the all for all key will go in there because it's got a wider groove than the service key, the valet key. The valet key will only unlock the door and start the ignition. It won't unlock these other things. Anyway, this car has 2 keys, and I'm going to re-key it to 1 key. Let's see if it fires up. And there she blows. Sounding a little rough because it hadn't had no oil. Got a lifter tick that'll probably go away after a little while. My mouth here is a little torn. Maybe why I asked somebody to get 2 of them. It's already quieted down the lifter, so it'll get a little more quiet, but hey, it's starting and running. Let me see if I got my scan gauge hooked up in here. Yes, I do. Let's see what voltage we're reading, because this thing was putting out low volts before. It still is. It should be up around 13.6, 13.4 at a minimum. So I need to either replace the alternator or do the voltage regulator. So let me sweep behind the car and start setting stuff out behind the car and see if I can find this rear main seal. But you never want to cut these cars off too quick after you start them. You always want to let them run at least a minute so they don't get lawnmower syndrome. And I got a flashing arrow, and I got a flashing service light. That's not good. That's usually an issue with the cluster when that service light flashes like that. So I think I also have, I got something going on over there too. My info button is not working. That's going bad. Boy, these cars don't like sitting, I tell you. Yeah, nothing's working on my trip computer. May just need a screw on the battery tightened up a little bit. My service light, my tag's dropping out. Yeah, it's a bad sign for this cluster. My fuel gauge is bouncing around. Wow. There we go. We're getting some fuel now. It cut off. Maybe ignition switch. I just waited. Nope. It's going bunkers with the cluster. Alrighty. I got issues. Maybe driving it around a little bit, that'll smooth out. But let me cut the car off because I don't want this car hot if I'm going to do anything with the alternator. See if I can find this rear main seal in this storage compartment back here. Got in, fired right back up. Check engine light, ABS light, service, and a flashing aerial. I think the PMP switch has gone back out. Started acting up right before I parked it. Let me back this car in this garage, unload it, see if I can get everything I need and find this rear main seal. I'm trying to order one. Somebody's supposed to be checking on one for me. See if I can get some traction on getting some things done. I got a flashing light here as well, my shifter selector. Oh my, this thing is barely moving. It is starting in limp mode, 3rd gear. Oh man, that was pretty nasty. Tires sound low. I got a new toy, so I'm gonna check that. This tire is kind of bald, like I got an alignment issue. It's probably the only tire on the car hadn't been replaced since I got it. Most of these other tires have. Let me break out my new toy and check the tire pressure on this thing. Show you guys what I got. My buddy John showed me how to get one of these, basically half price. Extreme couponing, mechanics edition. I do use tire inflators a lot. I need them. So this runs off of the M12 batteries. So I'm going to crack this open and hook this up. Check the pressure on these tires and air them up. Looks like this caliper right here must be stuck, because it barely took anything off of that rotor. It should have swiped that rust right off of that rotor. I thought one of these calipers was hanging up. Maybe I just didn't drive far enough, brake long enough. Yeah, that one's still pretty much covered with rust, but it got most of the rust off of that one. And the two fronts, most of your braking force is on the front, so let's break this open and see how this thing works. In this video, I'm going to be unboxing this Milwaukee compact inflator. Primary use for airing up car tires. Needle, inflator hose, that, whatever. I'm going to use it primarily to inflate tires when they go low on my car. Not sure if this thing had ever been opened before, but it has adapter kits on the back right there. The hose is not properly stowed the way I would expect it to be. It does have the protective film on that. I can read the instructions. Yeah, comes with instructions. Come with more sales pitch stuff. But I'm going to screw this thing in the tire, plug in my battery right there, and turn on the power, see where it goes from there. Usually I use a inflator that plugs into the cigarette lighter, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt. Usually if you have a car with low tires, battery will also be low. So you gotta run the car just to get it running right. Plug the battery in there. Cut on the power, see what happens. Hey! It tells you your battery charge. I don't know what that symbol right there is for, but let's screw this on the tire, see what kind of pressure we got. I want at least 32 in all these tires, because I'm overloading the car or whatnot. Stuff like that. Look at there, 31.5. Can't complain about that. This is where you can dial in what pressure you want on there. So I'm going to set it for 32. I'm going to leave that 31.5 alone. Let's go to the next tire. Whew, that's dirty. Dirty. Need to get a cap on that thing. $31, that's enough for me. I'm not going to air up a tire. It's 1 PSI low. Now this one looks low. It also doesn't have a cap on it. I don't know why these don't have caps on them. Dust caps. Keep this dirt and stuff out of them. My guess is going to be 23. 21. I got it knocked up to 32. I'm going to hit that so it should air it up. And it should cut off by itself once it's aired up. That's real time right there. Going up pretty quick, less than a minute. Shut itself off. You only use one notch on the battery. Let's go to the next tire and see where that is. That last one is 28, so I'm going to go ahead and air that one up as well. All I can do is hit this start button. It is up to 32. I'm gonna go ahead and shut the power off and disconnect it. Put it back in the box. This is how I stored this cable. You may be able to clip this brass end on there, but I think this is the point of less stress here. So take my battery out of there and put this thing away. Well, that was fun. Now my buddy Rudy said they have an M18 version of an inflator, and Rudy kind of discouraged me from getting the M12. He strongly suggested that I up to the M18. However, he did not make a deposit in my bank account to make up the difference from this M12 to the M18. So I proceeded with this, which so far I'm thrilled with what it did. Now, Rudy has what they call a jizzob. I do not. I'm on a budget, and he is not on the same budget that I'm on. So I don't let people tell me how to spend my money. Now, they could buy it, ship it to me. Man, I'd be glad to use it. But when it comes out of my pocket, I gotta be economical. So what I got going on here with Lemonade, I need to unload it, look for a part, rear main seal, inventory the rest of the stuff I have, organize these parts I have to pack this thing back up. I have a front anti-sway bar that I could put on this car, IPD style. I need to redo the parking brakes. I could do that on this car. I need to patch my overhead storage thing. I broke it on the other side. I think it was eaten away by brake fluid. See, it's got that nice hole right there. That needs to be patched so that I don't lose stuff. Man, that thing is splitting all the way across the front now. So I need to get this down. This thing cost me 350 bucks. I don't need to destroy it. So I need to get this down, fix that, patch it, epoxy it, get it as best I can. Troubleshoot what's going on with this transmission situation, which I think is the PMP switch, and figure out what else I need to do before I hit the road. But the big thing is finding this rear main seal. It's number one on the list. Let's unload this puppy. Because Lemonade was parked over here, a lot of dirt was trapped back here. Nobody had a chance to kind of blow it out, clean it out. So I took care of that. Man, you can see where this car was parked and the type of tires it has on it, because this ground gets so hot, it just leaves a tread right there on the ground. That is crazy. This must be a new piece of concrete here, from here on out to the street. Looks like poured after the fact. Anyway, I got this cleaned up, blown out, and now I'm ready to unload the car. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.